Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Big East Rewind. I am your 7-foot host, Chuck Everson, and my point guard, the sensational Syracuse standout, Sonny Spera, ladies and gentlemen. How are you?
I'm good. That's a lot of S's, Chuck.
You handled it pretty good, and it took a lot of practice, Sonny. I got to be honest.
You handled that well.
Len
Berman would be proud of you.
Len Berman would be proud of me. You know what? He's been in my head, Sonny. I got to be honest with you. Since we did that at that show, Len Berman lives in my head. And I'll tell you why. Because I can't separate Spera and Syracuse. I always say, if I can't say Spera and Syracuse, I say Spera and so either pronounce your name wrong or the school's name wrong. So
all good.
He's in my head. So we're working on that, though. We're working on that. So listen, Sonny, I got big news for you. The Huskies are in the house today.
Huskies are in the house.
Yep, we got two of the best Huskies ever to play at UConn. Very excited to have them both here. So without any further ado, Sonny, I'm going to introduce our two guests today. Okay, how's that sound?
Bring it, baby. Let's
All right. Our first guy is from Hillcrest Heights, Maryland. He played at the Mather High School for Morgan Wooten, a Hall of Fame coach, the Hall of Fame. Morgan Wooten. Okay, pretty amazing. He got to play for two Hall of Famers in his career, with Calhoun and Wooten. The microwave, the UConn Flash, John Gwynn is with us. How are you, John?
How you doing? Thanks for having me, Chuck. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And John's running mate, the all-time leading scorer at UConn with 2,145 points. The great Chris Smith is with us. Chris, how are you, pal?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having us, man. This is a pleasure.
Absolutely.
That would be a great trivia question. I'm telling you.
What's that, Sonny?
Leading scorer at UConn. Ask that question.
I know, because listen, there's got to be. What did Coach say when we had him on? He had like 32 pros come out of the program, right?
Wow. Wow.
I've seen Chris play. I've been a fan of the Big East ever since I played. We've always watched the games and stuff, Sonny. We're both basketball heads, But I don't know if you ask me cold right now in 2022 without knowing Chris, I don't know that I would have picked Chris. Would have been my first pick. I might have said somebody like Ray Allen or somebody like that. But Chris lit it up, man. That's a lot of buckets, man.
You know what most people say, Richard Hamilton.
Right, yeah, Rip Hamilton. Right.
Yeah, that's what most people say.
Well, think about it, right? Who would have guessed that Lawrence Moulton is a Syracuse, number one?
Right.
In the conference.
That's another guy. Yep. He was number one in the Big East until recently, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Last season, Howard got him, right?
Yep.
Well, listen, we got a lot to talk.
Two great ones, man. Two great ones here. Let's roll.
Two great ones. Yeah, that's right. And it's funny because we've had your teammate on. Coach Peichel, Steve Peichel came on. Now I got to call him Coach because he's no longer a player, right? So we gave him that respect, and he's a Long Island guy a little bit too because he's coached out here in Stony Brook. But Coach Pike was on, so he was one of your teammates. He played with you guys for a few years, right? Now, did he have a brother that played with you too?
Yeah, Tim Peichel.
We were talking about it. We weren't sure, and I said that's not exactly a common last name, so we figured it might have had his brother was there. And and you guys had some good seasons there too. So it was good to have him on. And of course, we had the other Hall of Famer, John, your other Hall of Fame coach, Calhoun on. And that was something to talk with him. And we'll get into him too in a little bit. But man, he talked about a lot of things, especially relationship wise with you guys, with players and stuff that, it really reminded me of Coach Massimino and the relationships that we had with him, pretty cool stuff. So, John, let's start with you. The Mather High School coming out of Hillcrest Heights in Maryland. That's the DMV, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, it is. Yes,
okay,
it is.
that's where all the ballers come from, John. That's what they say, right? How many pros came out of that area?
Oh my goodness! I mean, even at my high school, on the varsity team, everybody went D1. People were trying to go pro. My first year there, the talent was so good. People know I played JV my first year, and Mike Bray was my JV coach. Mike Bray Yeah, Mike Brady,
Wow.
and they had Carlton Valentine, Danny Ferry. I mean, they had pros on that team. So, but you know what we got 2 national championships, and you know, Coach Wooten was probably one of the best coaches of all time. But yeah, but DeMatha, and you know, was good, and is still good. I'm pretty sure DeMatha is still ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, I think you're right. They've been good for years and years, and it's like a factory over there. You know, they just keep pumping out players. You know, so what was that like? I mean, first of all, who was a tougher coach in practice? Was it Coach Calhoun or Coach Wooten?
Well, it was different because Morgan Wooten wasn't just an ordinary coach. I think there are only 2 high school coaches in the
I know.
game.
Yeah, he's
Morgan
one of them.
Is one of them. So he may be the great coach of all time, but he would get you with sarcasm. So coach would be sarcastic with you and embarrass you when he's upset. And then I got to UConn, and I was called every name in the book. I don't know if I can say it here, but I didn't know how to relate to that. You know, I never been called those type of names before. So 2 great coaches, but they coach totally different. You know,
John, I was gonna say, if there was another coach tougher than Calhoun, that's unbelievable.
No,
because coach was tough. You know, John, number one, John and I hated the run. We did not like the run. And coach used to have us run this hill, this cemetery hill. And John and I always came last in the cemetery hill. And coach used to get honest about making sure that we ran these hills because he felt like we were leaders of the team and stuff like that. But we just always came in last. But coach he never gave us a break. He was always tough on us. And he was definitely the toughest coach I've ever played on.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
mean, I don't know if, I mean, it was the first day of practice was inhuman how much running we did. I mean, we ran for 3 hours. I mean, it wasn't normal. No, we really ran for 3 hours. And Smitty, how about this? You remember Christmas break? We bust down to St. John's and played them on campus, lost by 31 points.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We bust back and practice at like 2 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 2 in the morning. At 2 in the morning, we had 3-hour practice. Do you remember that, Smitty?
Oh, yeah.
That? And then we still play one-on-one after, didn't we?
Yeah.
So that was your guys' thing. You guys played one-on-one every day after practice.
Listen a second. I got to be honest. See, I was always taught that if you outwork someone, it's going to pay off. So nobody was going to outwork me. Nobody's going to shoot more J than going to outwork me. And Smitty was the only person that I really couldn't beat. Every day I had to try his handle, his shot. He was one of the best guards up there. I know they've had Kimber and they've had some great guards, but if you ask me to pick one guard to roll with, I'm gonna go with Smitty. Because if you go back and watch Smitty's handle and what he did back then, he was really Kyrie before Kyrie. Before, you know, everybody started doing the step back and the crossover. Smitty was already doing it. So really, Smitty was a little bit before his time.
So in all those games of one-on-one, Smitty, who got the better of who?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what.
you know that's a loaded question, man. You know
that's a loaded question.
I'm gonna get 2 different answers, Sonny. You know,
and we have to mute somebody and let someone and then go the other way.
All I'm gonna say, as far as blood quantity, that I ended up with more blood coming out my face than my body.
Well, there's no referees in practice, man. You know that.
Man, John would literally elbow me. He'll open me up, man. It was like I was in a prize fight with De La Hoya when I finished playing one-on-one.
Well, it is the Big East, Smitty. You know, it is the Big East.
Yes. And Chuck, back in those days, now, because, you know, I officiated for 20 years D1. And what they were trying to have us do is have the game be not so physical. They taught freedom of movement.
Freedom of movement.
When somebody cuts across the lane, when we played with Brian Shorter around the morning, you know, you're going to feel it. Now you can cut across the lane. You can't touch anybody. You can't fill anybody up. So the Big East is totally different now than it was back 30 years ago.
Totally.
Oh, absolutely. So let me ask you this. When you were getting recruited, Okay, John, when you're getting recruited, Morgan Wooten, what was his style? Like, did he get involved in your recruitment? Did he help guide you? Did he give you some people to talk to?
Yeah. Well, you got to go back because you got to go back to the time. Now, back in those days, DeMatha was #1 in the nation.
Right.
We were the best team in the country, and Coach Wooten was the best coach. Everybody at DeMatha went ACC. Nobody. I was the first player to ever go Big East out of DeMatha. The reason I wanted to go Big East so bad is because my dad and I had season tickets to Georgetown games, and we went to every home Georgetown game for 8 straight years. I saw Ralph Sampson Patrick. Like I said, I saw Baby Duran, Craig Shelton. So I wanted to play in the Big East Conference. I didn't want to play in the ACC. And my last year, it was a lot of stuff going on up at Maryland with Len Bias and Lefty. So it was a lot going on up there, at that time. I liked Maryland, but I really wanted to go to Georgetown desperately. But at the time, John Thompson didn't recruit players out of DeMatha at all. It was some few that Coach Thompson and Coach Wooten had, I think when Coach Thompson was at Carroll. So he didn't recruit anybody out of DeMatha, but I still wanted to play in the Big East Conference.
They had a big rift, right, in high school, because
I'm not sure what happened.
I read that in his book. I mean, it was unbelievable and it lasted, right? I guess Wooten took, wasn't he the coach at Maryland for a little while?
He almost got the job. No,
Bob Wade.
Oh, Wade got that.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Wade got exactly.
But I know it ran deep. Whatever the problem was, it ran deep between the two.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you're talking about top recruits that never got recruited there. Now I know when John Thompson III got there, I think he started to recruit him there. But back in those days, Coach Thompson did not recruit players out of DeMatha. So I made sure I had my best games at that time, right, Smitty?
Oh yeah, and John, well, you was ready to play every game,
Yes,
and
sir.
I always felt, John, if John would have played as many minutes I played, I wouldn't be the leading scorer of UConn history at all. Like that. If John played 30 minutes a game, he would probably score 35 to 40 points a game.
So John, with that big a marquee program and players, there had to be line of coaches every game, every practice.
Oh, listen. I'll give you the scenario, and I'm not making this up. At a regular practice after school, Dean Smith, Lefty, Bobby Crimmins, they're taking notes on our practice. Coach K, I would see him all the time. I would also see Red Auerbach a lot because I think Red is from DC. I think Red and Coach Wooten were very close. So I saw Red Auerbach all the time. But at that time, Coach K and those guys, they weren't Coach K yet. You know what I mean? They were good coaches, but they were young coaches. But I would see those guys every single week recruiting and taking notes on our practice. I would also see him a lot at Coach Wooten's camps over the summer because Coach Wooten ran a camp with Joe Gallagher out of St. John's. So I would always see those guys there as well. But I saw Coach K, Bobby Crimmins, Lefty. I saw those guys all the time.
Yeah. So
that's great.
So what other schools were in your mix as you were starting to?
My mix was, I got recruited from NC State, Maryland, most of the top schools, Boston College, Connecticut. I remember Marquette, Wake Forest. I was a small guy, but I could score to go to the Big East Conference. And I came to Connecticut and I had a good visit and it just felt right to me. You know what I mean? And then I never thought, when I got here, we were like, 4-15. I never thought by my junior year, we'd be the top team in the country. I got here, then coach got Smitty, and then things started to change. So, things worked out for me.
Right. So, Chris, talk about you coming out of Bridgeport. You were the player of the year in Connecticut, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what was that like? That kind of attention, that kind of pressure, if you will. How was that, handling that?
Man, it was excellent. You got to realize, coming out of Bridgeport, we had a player by the name of Chris Watts that went to St. Joe's High School, was being coached by Tommy Montelli, and Chris Watts was highly regarded. He was a year ahead of me in high school, And whenever you went to his games, it was like, John, you saw the, all the big coaches, Raleigh Massimino, you saw all these big time coaches coming to see Chris Watts. And guess what? They were in our division. So we used to play St. Joe's, and those coaches got a chance to see me play. And that's how I pretty much got ranked. And pretty much most of the coaches started to see me play. And, I started being recruited by majority of all the schools in the country, along with John, as far as all the Big East schools as well. So I could definitely understand what John mean by the pressure of and having all the coaches, high level coaches there at your practices and games.
John, were you involved in recruiting Chris? Because you were ahead of him, right?
No. I remember when I got there, it was big hype when he came. I mean, it was huge, and Smitty lived up to it. I mean, just an unbelievable player. Could shoot it, could handle. He was strong, could score, could pass. Smitty could do it all. But once he got there and Scott got there, that's when we started to build the foundation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it just snowballs. But Smitty was the first huge recruit. Smitty was the first huge recruit. But I was a big recruit, but Smitty was gigantic. And that helped get Ray and Danielle and the big time players. But I think that our team started the foundation of where the program is right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. You guys were good. That 90 team was really good,
Oh,
Big East champs, right? And they beat somebody, Sonny, you remember who they beat in the 90?
I don't. I don't remember it even happening, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, they wore the same colored jersey as your sweatshirt.
But Sonny, I'm last that year, They had us picked last that year. Street and Swift magazine had us picked last that year.
Last in the Big East, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
you never know. Look at last year. They picked Patrick and them to come in last, and they won the whole thing too. You never know.
They sure did.
What'd you say, Chris?
They
Sonny, that was bitter. I'm gonna tell you that was kind of bittersweet, the Big East championship, because number one, my family a huge Knicks fan, so when I was a kid, they used to take us to the Knicks games. Number two, I was a huge Syracuse fan. Pearl Washington was pretty much my idol. I watched him when he was at Syracuse, and I wanted to beat Pearl on the streets of Bridgeport, Connecticut. So, and then I became really, really close with Billy Owens. So when Billy and I used to, go to all the camps, Nike camp and stuff like that, we would say we were going to go to school together and stuff. And so when I went to visit Syracuse, Billy took me out, and I came home and I told my mother I was going to go to Syracuse. I was that close to really going to Syracuse. And once I told my mother I wanted to go to Syracuse, she said, I won't be able to see you play because it's too far. And that was my deciding factor on going to UConn, because my family were always at my games when I was younger, and I wanted them to be a part of something special as well. But it was kind of bittersweet when we beat you guys in the Big East tournament, Sonny. So just wanted to let you know that.
Well, what's really funny though is after talking to Coach Calhoun, it's not surprising he got where he got in that time frame with his guys. He talked about it, and there definitely was a plan and a strategy, and you could see it, like you talked about, John. You guys were the first recruiting class, right, John?
Yeah.
Of Coach, and then Smitty, you guys were the second class, but it just it was going from there. I'm sure nobody in UConn was surprised when you guys won the Big East or went from picked last to win. Coach Calhoun knew it. It was by design.
Yeah.
He also said, guys, on the show that he didn't recruit you for 4 years. He recruited you for the rest of your life. We had Karan Butler on too, and Karan said the same thing. So perfect intro. Talk about your relationship with Coach Calhoun on and off the floor, and during your time at UConn, and also, afterwards. John, you go first.
I go first. So if we're talking about relationship when I was there, I tried to avoid him, man. He was crazy, Chuck. He was really off the charts, man. I'm being honest. I was a little scared of him. I didn't say, am I wrong? You got to admit now, guys, he's 48 years old. He's in his prime. So he was no joke. But that's why we had David Lado, Howie Dickham, and Glenn Miller. But Coach was doing that out of love. See, he was very, very tough. You heard of tough love? That's what Coach was. I mean, he was very, very tough on us. But Smitty can attest to this. He'll do anything for you. You know, after we graduated, you know, Coach always would have a golf tournament down at Mohegan Sun. We would always come back for it. I mean, he would do anything for you. He would give you the shirt off his back, but you didn't know it during the season because he was so obsessed with winning and practices and winning. People never saw that side of Coach, but Coach was just, if I had to do it all over again, I would go back to UConn 1,000% because of Coach. You know, Coach means the world to me. And I know Smitty can attest to the exact same thing.
Yeah, definitely. I tell you, man, I tell you guys a small story, man. I got, you know, after leaving UConn, I got drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves, played with them for 3 years. And then 95 first lockout, I ended up going to Europe and tore my Achilles, right? So I sat out 1.5 years and ended up playing in Israel. And Coach brought the team down to play, you know, obviously Nadav was on Maccabi Tel Aviv and I was on Maccabi Renana. So we played UConn. And after the game, man, I was so upset. They beat us. I didn't want to talk to Coach. I didn't want to talk. That was that Elamine team when they won the championship. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I'm in the shower, basically in the shower. And I said, I'm not going to talk to Coach. I don't even care. I'm upset. I'm already in, you know, I'm in Europe. I'm upset. So all I hear is just shower. You know, I'm in the shower. And here go Coach Calhoun having a conversation with me, smiling the whole night while I'm washing up and the whole night. I'm like, man, Coach, he loved us, man. He really did. And he probably knew I wasn't going to go back there, but he ended up coming into my locker room. Wasn't nobody in there but me and him. And we were talking, and that's the love, you know, that's the love that he, even after basketball, that he wants to let you know that he really cares about his players, you know.
You know, he speaks very highly of all you guys, his kids, my kids, you know, that's all really, really good stuff because the relationship for a guy like that goes way beyond basketball at that point, you know. Now, how about during the season, guys? Was he accessible? Can you go into his office and say, hey, I got an issue, I got a problem? Or did you have those two assistant coaches that were buffers for that?
Like John said, I didn't. I know I didn't. And like John said, you know, you're talking about a coach that's 6'6", young in his prime. Even if we won games by 15, if you didn't get a particular rebound, that's all he remembered. You know, he didn't care that you scored 20 points. He didn't care that we won the game. All he cared about was, you know, making sure X's and O's were done in a particular fashion. And every time we seen him, man, he rarely gave us compliments, right, John? It was like, really gave us compliments, man. Yeah. It was like, you can always do more. You can always be better. And that's, you know, and that's how he was. And, you know, if I had a problem, man, I went to Dave later with so I did not go in Coach's office because I didn't want to hear about how I didn't play well.
No, it's funny. It's funny you guys are saying that because even now, at his age now, he's exactly the same way. When we were trying to get him on the show, I was talking to him on the phone, and he MF'd me 47 times in one paragraph. Like, I was like, oh, and then I start laughing, and he figured, okay, I knew it was, you know, it wasn't serious, but he thought I played for him for a minute, man. I thought I changed my name, you know?
Yeah.
It rhymes with Chuck. It rhymes with Chuck. Get a load of this guy. You know?
That's him. That's Coach.
So I get what y'all are saying because he still has that intensity. And then a week or two after we had him on the show, we retired, and that was it, you know, for him, for his college career.
But when he talks about his players, there's a switch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is. You're right.
It's amazing. Like when he talked about Karan Butler and Karan had a kid and where he came from. And all of a sudden, there was definitely a huge soft side.
He has a huge soft side, gigantic. Gigantic soft side. Anybody would tell you that. Smitty and I just met 30 years ago from November to March. That's what we're talking about. You know what I mean? But aside from that, he's just somebody you want in your corner. But I bet you, I'm telling you, all the great coaches, I bet, were that way. Gino was that way. John Thompson, Georgetown, Boeheim. You can't walk around trying to get everybody to like you, kind of thing. You know what I mean? He always said he's there to win basketball games, and that's what he was there to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are some of your best on-court memories, Chris? Getting into the Garden, like you said, that's your folks would come down. Talk about playing at the Garden and some of the Big East battles that you guys had back then. It was a lot of great players then, right? Malik Sealy and a bunch of
a great class. Yeah,
great class.
Yeah, I mean, even the Twin Towers, man. I mean, come on, you got names like that with the Kemp and Alonzo. I mean, the Twin Towers. You got, like you said, Malik Sealy and Derek Coleman and Billy with Syracuse. I mean, I don't care what nobody say. Dana Barrows was one of the best guards I ever played against. I mean, he was like unstoppable. If it was a football game, you're a double team, man. You know what I mean? And Dana was one of those types of guys. We put one of our best defenders, Lyman DePriest, could stop anybody in practice, could stop anybody in games. Lyman DePriest was happy if Dana only scored 25 points. We felt like we stopped Dana if he scored 25 points. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the Big East was that tough. It was grinding. But for my family, the biggest part about the Big East was my family because, coming from the East Coast, everybody watched basketball at Madison Square Garden. It's the mecca of basketball. And for you to go into that arena and play well in front of your family is just one of the biggest attributes you could ever do in your life,
Yeah.
Yeah. If I were to piggyback on Smitty, I remember Big East tournament 1990 against Syracuse. And I remember telling myself, man, this is why I put up 500, 600, 700 shots a day in my driveway. This is why I did it, to be in Madison Square Garden. Everybody wants to play well. So Smitty was right. I mean, everybody wants to play well anywhere, but especially Madison Square Garden. But I mean, even one name, like I remember Charles Smith of Georgetown, the guard of Georgetown. He was unbelievable. Mark Tillman, Smitty mentioned the Twin Towers, Billy Owens. There were just so many great players. So you had to bring your A game every game. But I just remember being in the Big East tournament championship game, and I kept telling myself, this is why you work so hard. Just trust the process, and we won that year. But I think we were co-champions with Syracuse in the regular season, but we won the Big East tournament. So I got to piggyback on my backcourt mate. I would say Madison Square Garden was probably the most exciting place to play.
By far.
Yep.
By far.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting too is when Sonny and I played, we're a little older than you guys, but there was that ebb and flow. The UConns of the world and the Providences of the world weren't that good. That was the games that everybody was looking forward to get a little run in, because they wouldn't play everybody the whole time. And then you had the different echelon, but then it just all of a sudden it flip-flopped, right? Because you had Providence going to the Final Four, you had you guys winning the Big East, so it was a challenge in that there was, like you say, John, there was no nights off. I mean, what were some of the teams that gave you guys fits?
John, I'll let you say that.
Well, like you said, we were at the top of our game. Boston College was at the bottom. Do you know how hard it is to beat Boston College at Boston College? It was so hard.
Yeah, we do.
Smitty would tell you. Listen, Smitty would tell you, Providence played us as tough as Georgetown did, right, Smitty?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There were no nights off. You had Seton with PJ.
Yeah.
It was there were no nights off in the Big East Conference at all. Whether you're playing Georgetown with the top or you're playing Boston College. college played you even tougher.
The team I hated to play the most, I tell you though, was Villanova. Just in Villanova, they played that zone, man. They played that zone because
that crowd was terrible.
The crowd was crazy, but UConn, we had athletes, man. I ran the court. John ran the court. Tate ran the court. Scott Burrell's an athlete. Danielle Marshall was an athlete. So we wanted to get the ball, and we were like horses, man. We wanted to push that thing and just run as fast as we can. And Villanova just slowed you down. They made you pass the ball 4 or 5 times. You had to grind it out every possession. So I didn't like that feel of the game. I just wanted the game to flow. And Villanova was just one of them teams I really didn't want to play.
Now, where did you play, Nova? Did you play at the Spectrum when you played in Philly, or at
No, we played them at their
at the Pavilion.
The Pavilion. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Because that opened in '86. So yeah, I didn't realize. I thought they were still spreading the games around. So
yeah.
I think at the time when you guys are talking, the Big East had really come to the middle now. So early on, you had a couple teams that were weaker than other teams.
Yeah.
And at this point, you're right. All of a sudden, right, you got, Seton Hall is there. UConn, you guys went from where you were to where you became. Yeah. Providence was no joke. So, and Boston College was always tough in the middle there. They were always tough in the middle. And it was kind of like there was Georgetown, Syracuse, Nova, and St. John's had a little more marquees, and all of a sudden Pittsburgh starts coming. So there really wasn't. I think as far as balance and parity, I think the Big East was in its toughest years, and early '90s, end of the '80s. It's brutal.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and because the early years of the conference were so, like you said yourself, you watched Pearl, right, Chris?
Oh,
you were a big fan of Pearl. So watching these guys now, they want to and John wanted to play in the Big East because he was a big Georgetown fan.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't getting recruited by Georgetown, then I'll go out and beat Georgetown. So I think that there was a lot of guys like that. I think back then because it was that second wave of guys that came in.
When I was in high school, man, Big East. You talking about, I remember Billy Donovan just lighting Mark Jackson up, St. John's. I remember that. Earl Kelly at UConn and, the Pearl Washington almost getting ready to fight during the games. I mean, it was so, the competition was so great back then. How could you watch it and not like it? Yeah, right. You just had to like it and you wanted to play. It was tough. It was gritty. The Big East was just unbelievable. The talent was unreal. Yeah. And you just wanted to be a part of it.
84, Georgetown wins it all. 85, Nova wins it all. 87, Syracuse is in the finals. 89, you got Seton Hall, but Providence is in the Final Four in 87. So there's no doubt. It wasn't just one or two names anymore. It was everybody's there. And you're right, Chuck. Good point. Players coming in. Yeah. Who did John? Did you have anybody that you kind of tried to model your game after? Or was it guys from DeMatha? Guys that were for you? Was it Smitty?
No. I mean, I like watching guards, but it's no one I tried to pattern my game after. I was an off guard. I was a small off guard. I could dribble, but I didn't have Smitty's handle. Well, nobody did. But I just I had to find ways in which to score because that's what I did. I wasn't that true point guard. So it really wasn't anybody that I patterned my game after, although I did watch a lot of Big East basketball. I just tried to focus in scoring, focusing in on my strengths. But it wasn't one person that I patterned my game after, but I really enjoyed watching a lot of players come out of the Big East though. Yeah,
like a Curtis Aiken was a great scoring guard who was, was a little bit not as tall. Yeah. And Earl Kelly.
Dana Barrows was he was so good. He was unguardable. And I know people our age would know who he is, but he was just unguardable. He was so good. And he had range. So
he had Curry range when Curry probably wasn't even born yet.
He did.
He just shot from all over the court.
Yeah, he could. Yes, he could.
All right, I'm going to ask you this now. What was one of the memories of a place that you played either good memory or bad memory. Like I'm with you on the Boston College, because man, we went up to the Roberts Center. No, thank you. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
But you got any memories of any places that you played or games or events? You know, for me, it was like in the Boston Garden, you know, that horrible locker room that we had to go to.
Yeah.
And the floor had all these dead spots all over. And I was like, damn, man, this is a dream come true for me. And this place sucks.
Yeah.
So, anything like that you can recall?
You can go ahead, Smith.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna talk about our field house, man. UConn. I hated playing in our field house.
Really?
We played some big games in the field house, but on top of the ceiling, and it'd be birds flying around while the game is going on. I'm like, it was unbelievable, because I was a rookie, and all I thought about when I wanted to go to the Big East and play was, you know, you see the Madison Square Garden, you see these big arenas, but we started off in the field house, man, and it was ugly, it was dark. Birds flying around, and I'm like, man, this can't be the Big East. This can't be the Big East.
You know, Smitty, I'll let you go first, because I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say the field house. Remember that curtain, and it was leaking too. The ceiling was leaking.
Yeah. I think we had the worst. I think we had the worst facility in the Big East playing games. That's why we had to play in Hartford.
Yeah, we played you in Hartford every year.
Yeah, so did we.
Okay, you guys played us in Hartford. Yeah, man. If you'd have went to the field house, you wouldn't have believed it. You wouldn't have believed it.
Well, that's a home court advantage, though.
Yeah.
Our first game at Gamble, the 27th of January against St. John, and I never heard a crowd that loud in my life. Right, Smitty?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. You know, that was special. Gamble Pavilion opening up, that was special. And that's when it really felt like we were in the Big East. We were up and coming. We were arriving. Our first game was against St. John's, Malik Sealy and Robert Bourdain. And you know, that, remember, John, 4 games before that, they beat us by 30-something points, St. John's. So playing St. John's at the Gamble, the first game, I was a little nervous. I'm like, this team, Boo Harvey and those guys, I'm like, this team beat it by 30-some points, man. So we end up winning that game, and then that's when everything just went up from there. I mean, it was just a special time, definitely a special time.
Do you remember your first game where you had the CBS sports crew or the NBC sports crew on your campus or at your game, broadcasting your, you know, the game of the week on Saturday or Sunday at prime time, like afternoon games? Does any of those memories?
That might have been the St. John's game, right, John?
Yeah, St. John's game, yes. But the biggest game, out of Smitty can say himself, again, was that Madison Square Garden Big East Championship game against Syracuse. That's just gigantic.
Okay, we got to go back there.
But
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take it. I'll take it.
That was huge. That was
I'll
huge.
take it. I got a right and a left here. It's good.
Yeah, nothing beats that. The Georgetown game, Sonny, as well. I mean, you know, obviously Alonzo Mourning, he had his own media crowd, and you know, the CBS, ESPN followed him around everywhere, especially with the Kembe. So every time we kind of played Georgetown, it was a really good game, and it was some TV games as well. So definitely Syracuse, Georgetown, St. John's were probably our top 3 games that were televised back then.
Yeah.
So Smitty, now you get drafted, right?
Yep.
And you go out to Minnesota, you know, nice, warm, cozy place, right? And you're there, and now you kind of become the victim of circumstances there. No fault of your own. There's the lockout, and then you go over to Europe to play, because you didn't want to sit out. You didn't know how long that was going to last. Yeah. And then you wind up getting hurt, right? So with the Achilles. So I mean, so listen, just because, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because I know you coach kids, and I know you talk to kids, and I know you're a great role model for them. Just because you get there doesn't mean you're going to get to stay there. Do you talk to them about
I talk to them
not
about
only
that
making the
all
league,
the time.
but staying there. And
Yeah,
how do
I tell kids, my circumstance was unbelievable. It was unreal. My contract was up in 95. I played 3 years. We couldn't talk to anybody or even, re-sign back into the NBA. So I went to Europe to play. And it so happens I tear my Achilles, which was unbelievable. I tear my Achilles, so I sit out 1.5 years, and it was funny. In 97, I was called by the Miami Heat. And what's the coach? Oh man, I can't. The famous coach there. Yeah, Riley called me.
Oh, Pat
and he
Riley.
wants me to come down. My agent was the same age as Bimbo Coles, and Bimbo Coles wanted out, and they called me up, and Riley was like, "I want you to back up Tim Hardaway. Think it could be a good fit, the whole nine." So I go down to vet camp in 97. 97, it was a second lockout. And I'm just recruiting. I'm just recouping from my injury, the whole nine. And I was out of shape, and I went back to Europe. So, my situation was just totally unbelievable. So I do tell kids, if you get there, it doesn't mean that you're going to have the staying power. Because I've seen some great players come and leave within 1 year or even 2 years. So, if you add on a big injury, it's almost impossible to come back unless you're a big guy. I was a guard, so it made it even tougher for me to come back. But I definitely teach kids that once you get there, there's really no guarantee. There's no guarantee.
Right.
So
and John, you took a different route, right? I kind of was a little bit of both of you guys. I got drafted, but back then we had 6 rounds. So I teased Plansky all the time, who didn't get drafted, and I did. So that's our little back and forth. But so John, now you went the route of the CBA and the USBL for a little while, right?
I did. I was trying to latch on, and I played for a little while. And like Smitty said, it's so hard to make it. Chuck is so good. Yeah. Everybody can play. Everybody can. Yeah. Everybody's cool. And and again, I was a small guard. So, but I wanted to stay involved in basketball, so that I went the officiating route and started to officiate. And I officiated Division I for 20 years because I wanted to stay involved in the game. And but yeah, it's so hard to make it. It's almost impossible. And for a small guard, you got to have unbelievable skills to last for a long time. Yeah. If you're a guard and you last 4 or 5 years, that's amazing. You almost got to have Kyrie skills to last for a very, very long time.
Kids don't realize, because they think, I'm going to go to a D1 school. I'm going to start and play 38 minutes. And then I'm going to go in the NBA, and that's call it a career. It doesn't always work that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like you put your work in, and you have you have a good attitude, and you work real hard. You get to be the best player that you can be. You know what I mean? And there's no and staying within the game. I think that's great. I officiated myself, John, so I know what kind of tough job that is. Talk about that. Yeah. Talk about that for a second. I mean, you were on the D1 level too, right? I mean, you were in. What'd you do? Like the
I did it. I did the Ivy League, Patriot, American East, the CAA, and A10.
Oh, the A10.
I enjoyed it. I never got to for NCAA tournament. The highest I got to was a semifinal A10 tournament game, but it kept me involved in the game because I wanted to stay involved in the game. I love basketball. I wanted to find a way to stay involved in the game, and I enjoyed it. I really got into it.
But John, physically, you got to be in shape as well, though, right, John?
Yeah. Oh my word! I mean, you got to be in tip-top shape. I mean, I would train myself prior to the season, get myself in tip-top shape. I wanted to look like the players, but you have to, because during the game, I would run, 3 or 4 miles in the game, stop and go, obviously. Yeah. But so really, it was a way for me to stay involved in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all good stuff.
Now, well, guys, what are you guys up to now? Like, what are you doing now, John?
Well, we do the same thing. I'm a juvenile probation officer. I've been doing that 27 years, and Smitty is an adult probation officer. Smitty,
Yeah. 18 now.
How long, Smitty?
Yeah, 18. So going on 18.
You guys are a little too connected.
Listen. If Smitty were to text me right now to meet him at LA Fitness to play one-on-one, I'll meet him right
Yeah. Hey, listen, John, there's no referees at LA Fitness either, John. You know, I know. There you go. Well, listen, fellas, it's been awesome having you guys on and getting to chat and cut it up with you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We really enjoyed
Thank you.
You know, it's
really
not often, you know, a lot of the times we get guys and it's, you know, very, very deadpan, and sometimes it's hard to pull stuff out of guys, but you guys were fantastic tonight. Thanks for sharing your stories that you did. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks for having us, man. Really, really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Spera. The Big East Rewind was produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus and Daryl Gurney. You can check us out on YouTube. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Also, you can contact us and see us on Twitter at Big East Rewind. And if you have any comments for the show or anything that you feel that you'd like to see, any guests you'd like to have us on, give us a call, an email on bigeastrewind@gmail.com. Thanks a lot for joining us. Have a great night.